Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Pandemic, Technology, and Language Revitalization. We have three speakers this afternoon in the second half of the workshop. And first, we will have Doug Warham to introduce Lydia Tuglavina and Alana Johns. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Good afternoon or morning or evening or middle of the night, wherever you happen to be in the world. Before introducing Lydia and Alana, I just want to take a moment to thank all of the speakers and panelists so far, and the questioners too. Today has been really useful to me. Lydia Tuglavina grew up in Nain, which is presently the most northerly community in Labrador. Her first job was with Inuttitut Society, where she was a reporter and producer for the radio station. She points out that outside of the home, that was the first time that she had the ability to use Inuttitut on a regular basis. Lydia has volunteered with Anishinaabe Health Toronto, becoming a trainee with them early in the 2000s. More recently, she returned to school, where she received her ABE in 2014. And between working as a Labrador Inuttitut language consultant and a translator and a transcriber, Lydia is now also creating her own art as a Labrador Inuit soapstone jeweler. She is, in short, a very busy person, and we're glad that she was able to join us today. Alana Johns is Alana. She is Professor Emeritus at the University of Toronto, having retired in 2017, because I remember, as she said at the time, Lydia Tuglavina, there is much work to be done. She has published widely, principally in the field of morphosyntax, and mainly in the realm of Inuttitut morphosyntax, but also for other languages and also in phonology. For many years, she co-taught alongside speakers of Labrador Inuttitut, various language and linguistics courses in Labrador, and she has worked along with speakers of numerous Inuit dialects on linguistic and language revitalization efforts. I could go on for a long time about Alana. You know, she's the linguist that I've long aspired to be is something like Alana Johns. But let's get to Alana and Lydia, who will be discussing Inuttitut master-apprentice style learning with Zoom, little by little. I think it's cool. Over to you.
Do we have the thing? The power?
I hope so.
Shannon, do Lydia and Alana have the power to share the screen?
Okay, yes, we do. I think. You see that? Maybe not. Did you see? You didn't see anything?
No, it's still just see your camera.
Okay. Tell me when I have. And is Lydia there? I can't see everybody whose video is on. Nick?
So hang on, I have to scroll through. Okay, yes, Lydia is on.
Okay, good.
Not by video, but she's participating.
Oh no, I need. Yeah, she was supposed to put her video on.
Lydia, can you turn on your video?
She's. Or what about audio? That's the crucial part. Video would be good.
I could say some more wonderful things about Alana while we're waiting. Oh.
No, I think I hear Lydia. Lydia, are you there? Lydia? Put on your sound. Lydia?
Here we go.
Here she comes. Unmute yourself.
Oh,
I hear you. I hear you now.
something going on with it.
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
hear you,
here
Lydia.
I'm on the
Good.
microphone, but I don't see a video.
Well,
It doesn't show that I'm on a video.
you just
I
keep
don't want to
keep
scroll
them.
through the next page, except that
Do you want me? I'll just
mhm.
start the speech. I'll start the
Should we
talk,
share
and then
yet?
you can figure out your video during the talk. But long as we can hear you for your part. Do I have the PowerPoint control? I'll try again. You guys see that?
No.
I don't see. Okay, let me go to the next page.
Do I have the ball? I know that's
You have the ball. So at the
Oh.
bottom, it should say share.
Oh, it's a sharing. I forgot. Sorry.
That's okay.
Been a while. Okay.
Thank you, Shannon.
Gee, there we are.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, and there's
here.
Lydia. We're all together. Okay.
Volume is very low.
Okay. Atili hai lunasi, Alana Vunga, Lydia Tamani Haktiki Yaha, Aro Ami Inuli Laukunga, Mana Toronto mi Inni Halikunga, Kunyaluk. Sulia ha Gunai Hunga, Itu Suti Ta Hata Ligama. Greetings, everyone. My name is Alana. Lydia is here with me. I was born in Ottawa, and I've been living in Toronto for a long time. I'm no longer working because I'm older now. I've reached an age of that. Lydia Ngai.
Adili hai ilunasi, Lydia Ngabunga, Alana Sulea Hatigi Hatayaka. Nain Labrador Remunga, Inuttitut, Happy Valley-Goose Bay mi ini halikunga akunialu. Greetings, everyone. My name is Lydia. I work with Alana. I was born in Nain and live in Happy Valley-Goose Bay for a long time.
Okay. So our talk today is about a little different from the other talks. We're probably the least technological people here. We're talking about a point of view of the end users who are trying to work with language issues. And we're not dealing with the latest technology. In fact, we're dealing with the most minimal technology. This is a common reality, not only for older fluent speakers, but also with language learners as well. No laptops, limited internet access. Kyle Napier brought up the digital divide, and that's sort of one of the main issues of our presentation today. And everyone should know that Lydia is communicating through her phone today. So she's might be the only one on WebEx on phone, but I don't know. So here's a map of Inuttitut in green, Inuttitut, and Happy Valley-Goose Bay, where Lydia is from, below that. And to stress the point I just said a second ago, Inuttitut did not get cell service until 2019. So that's surprising to some people, but that's the life of limited access. But today the internet is better, but it's still sometimes unreliable and always expensive. For people with less money, personal internet came with the new cell service, so they couldn't have like a computer at home if they didn't have a lot of money. And still today, people, if they need internet, they might borrow Wi-Fi from friends or relatives' houses. So this talk is actually, that was our sort of main point to anybody here who's on the technical side, but really we're talking to the audience, and in particular, we're hoping that some Labradorian see this presentation at some point, possibly in the future when it's put up somewhere, or if we can send a link, that because we're just trying to tell them that they can make their own language lessons, that they don't have to depend on school programs or government help, even though it's great if they're available, but they can do it themselves. So this is just something that is behind our purpose of our talk. So we're not reporting on a community project. Instead, we're talking about a personal teaching experience between Lydia and myself, one which has been going off and on for over 20 years. So we believe that talking about our use of this method will be interesting to some of the audience, and especially our switch to Zoom on the phone. And here we have to thank Susanna Behar, who's been working with us and who made that suggestion. The method we're using is a type of master apprentice. Now, this isn't a new topic to most of the people who are on the panel and are presenting here today, but to some of the audience, it might be a little new. So it's a method that the main proponent is Professor Leanne Hinton, who outlined a practical method of learning a language without a lot of art teaching, training, and materials. So this is a very useful book, How to Keep Your Language Alive, and in it, the method is outlined. In particular, this method of language learning, which is one-on-one speaking, is useful when you need to help intermediate speakers. It's not very good, in my opinion, for people who are at the very beginning. Like, it's better once you know a little bit of language and need to continue on. And I think those of us that are, everybody's aware that in Indigenous language teaching, the big gap is usually at the intermediate level. Everybody's got beginning courses. So how do we define intermediate? Well, we're not as very sophisticated about it. So we're just, for today, we're going to say people who can speak basic sentences within a conversation, but not always correctly. So they have to be able to bring a sentence or two into the conversation. And these people need to practice. They have knowledge, but they need to practice speaking with fluent speakers and using it in an everyday purpose. Because we all have to remember, and we all know, language, we're not just trying to learn the language, we're trying to learn the language to use it within the culture. I think that came up in numerous discussions this morning. And then once a person's got to an advanced stage, they can just keep talking within the community, and hopefully their language will get better as they keep speaking. So the take-home message for the learners, and this is, might be, we hope will reach somebody, is anyone can do what Lydia and I have been doing for the past 20 years. We don't do it very often. You really should do it more often than we do it, but we're just trying to give this information. So you first need to be able to speak basic sentences. You need a fluent speaker who's willing. You need to make time. And you need a particular length of time where you don't use English at all, no matter what. So you need it can be 10 minutes, an hour, whatever you can do. Probably start small and work it up. And there's lots of tips for people in the literature on how to make it more fun. Now, some places it uses, the Inuttitut government already has a master apprentice program that goes on across the communities. It began in 2016. They have pairs that work together approximately 20 hours a week. Both master and apprentice are paid. First Peoples in Cultural Council, they have funding for mentor-apprentice program, 300 hours a year. And again, both sides are paid. But you can do this on your own, even without those organizations. Say you don't get into them. You can still work out some sort of working relationship with someone. And the reason, one of the motivations behind this is somebody once stopped me when Lydia and I were talking in a grocery store, and they said, "Oh, I wish I could have lessons like that." And I was thinking, but you live there. You can do this anytime, you could start this. So I was sort of surprised that they thought this was something special, but we had just made this arrangement between each other. So anyone can do this. You don't need anybody in charge. You need to read up a bit. You need to find a speaker who will work with you. You need to pay them or do something for them. The number of hours you can, if you only have it 1 hour a week, it's better than 0. If you can do more, that's great. We were only doing it like once or twice a year. Lately, we've been doing it 1 hour a week. So the basics, again, an overview of it, the master should be fluent, the learner should be beyond beginner, and there should be a certain amount of time, whether it's 10 minutes, like I think right now we go 15, 20, but when I used to be up there with people for a walk or whatever, I could do it for an hour because there's lots of things to talk about, as we'll discuss. So the idea is to have no English. Don't ever let English get in there for that amount of time. This is, of course, called language immersion. And the master doesn't need any teacher training. They just need to be sensitive, intelligent people who can, keep an eye on what you're doing. And it's best to, to do something together or talk about something together. So what makes a good master? So, they're not all the same. So you have to pick a master that will actually listen to you and will encourage you to speak. It is possible that if the master doesn't let you speak and doesn't listen to what you say, you'll just end up being a really good listener. But that's not the purpose, trying to make you a better speaker. So the master also has to keep language difficulty just at the edge of the learner's abilities and never break into English until the talking time is over. So it just really has to be hard and fast rule. So my two fave masters are Lydia Tuglavina and Matt Barbour, who's in Nain. And what makes a good learner? Well, you've got to listen carefully. You've got to try to speak, even if you feel shy. And you have to understand that it's you who is responsible. Don't put it on the master. They're giving you the information, but you are responsible for learning it. Let's see. So before pre-pandemic, we would go for a walk in Happy Valley-Goose Bay. We'd go to North Mart. We'd look at washing machines and talk about them, whatever. No English during the whole time. I would carry a notebook and I'd write down things. I didn't ever get her to translate something during our time. I would just write them down. And then after that time was over, of the time of the no English, then we would break into English and go over things that I didn't understand. So we never did it a lot, which is one of the reasons I don't speak as well as I could. And now the pandemic is here and I cannot go to Labrador. I can barely get outside my neighborhood. So, Ati Lydia, uhala ligi.
I am a Labrador Inuttitut language consultant for Alana Johns with the University of Toronto for over 20 years. I've known Inuttitut all my life. Alana and I began having Labrador Inuttitut lessons in Toronto. I relocated back to Labrador from Toronto in 2004 and live in Happy Valley-Goose Bay. At times when Alana passed through Happy Valley-Goose Bay on the way to Northern Labrador, we'd meet in town and have our Inuttitut lessons. We were able to speak and use our gestures to make each other understand because we were able to see each other than the things we were talking about. Like, for example, on a shopping trip, we could talk about an object, what it is, what size, what color, whether we liked it, because we could see things. We were able to understand each other speaking only Inuttitut. My lesson method was to speak only Inuttitut with Alana for an hour. We both kept notes of the Inuttitut lessons. Then another hour to go through our notes in English for bits that Alana didn't understand in Inuttitut and for repeating how the words in Inuttitut sound. Sometimes we use Skype or Webex when we met online. That was best means of communicating for the Inuttitut lessons when not in person. At the time, I did not have a device or a laptop, so I used Skype and Webex at the library on a computer. In the pandemic, I got a phone, so I stopped going to the library to use the computer. When COVID came, we had to have lessons over the phone, but it was difficult to talk about things you cannot see over the phone. Today, we still do the same thing as when we got together in person, except on Zoom on my cell phone. Here is a picture of me on my cell phone. Now we can both look at the same thing and I'm able to make Alana understand what the object is that we are talking about in Inuttitut. For example, we like to show each other the weather outside and talk about it. I find it to be effective because you can see gestures and even hear pronunciations better when you see who you are meeting with. Both ends can understand a bit better than just listening on a phone. With Facebook video, there is a lot of distractions while you are talking. Just a few days ago, I learned to turn off notifications on Facebook so I won't be interrupted. A few weeks ago, I was introduced to a group meeting in Zoom by University of Toronto linguists who are professors and a graduate student. We tried out this practice meeting. It went well. As a user, I was pleased to be able to speak with each person who were in a meeting with me. Then I turned the page over on a little bar with 3 circles, and on the other page there was another Zoom member, which I did not know until I scrolled. Over the years, Alana has learned and improved her Inuttitut skills. Now Alana can respond in Inuttitut according to my experience with her on Inuttitut lessons. Speaking with a fluent Inuttitut speaker even helps me because my friend who is an elder gave me Inuttitut suggestions if I don't understand a word in Inuttitut. I ask him what is the translation of a word. For example, what is how? He replies and tells me it means forehead. Here I am, first time hosting on Zoom. I hosted my first Zoom meeting with John Digger the other day, who is the Illustrac manager for Inuttitut, Nain, Labrador, north of Valley-Goose Bay. Joan is also a Zoom user, but she has not hosted Zoom before, and the only time she is on Zoom when she is invited to a meeting at the Alana
Uh, so using Zoom in Inuttitut, if you're a speaker living in the community, or not a speaker, if you're a learner, it should be if you're a learner living in the community, you may not need to use Zoom. You could just meet and walk with some speaker depending on COVID regulations. So you don't need the small bathing suit, thanks to the image from Brian Miracle. That's the best way to learn. Okay. Hope my time is okay. But maybe there's no speaker to work with in your community, then using Zoom, Zoom for lessons is helpful. And one of the things that we think would be a great idea is if there was a Zoom speaking groups maybe, where people could form a language group and speak with each other, including other learners and also fluent speakers. And here's where I want to mention that 3 Mohawk women have started a language group, and it's very exciting, and they have they've done a lot of thinking, and it's really, really well thought out. I heard them give a talk last week, and they've written up a lot of detail about it, and I can send you the link to their description. You have to keep in mind that they're much more advanced speakers than maybe a Labrador learner would be, because they have a 2-year language course behind them. But nevertheless, it's really, really impressive. And you can read about it on the CBC website, about their language speaking group, Yongwa Ronka Ohache, and it's really, really impressive. So they just, they have a group, they do speaking. I took a few notes from their presentation just to show you some of the highlights, that it's a grassroots organization, full immersion, but fun. They keep track of new words, each person, because each person's going to learn different new words at the time. You don't want to write down the words you already know. And there's something about learning how to learn, like independent learning. And I remember we did this when we taught the 2nd year course at U of T in Inuttitut. We knew that the students weren't ever going to get another course at U of T. They only were the 2 half courses. So one of the part of the course was, you're never going to get another course. Here's what you need to do to learn how to learn. And the issue of dialects, which was brought up earlier today, was important. We said the first speaker you're going to meet after this course isn't going to speak the way you just were taught, because they were being taught South Bath, and for sure they'd meet somebody else. And so that was the thing, is to get used to it. As somebody, I think maybe Chris said, get used to it. There's going to be some challenges out there, and to prepare them for this and teach them how to keep within their learning. Back to this presentation that I heard last week. So push boundaries, and then the Mohawk signature of their learning, I think, and the thing that impresses me so much, evaluate progress. It's so important. So they would make sure that they were moving forward, like to make sure. And the last thing I think they said that stayed in my mind was they should help each other, and also those coming up, so the people who don't speak quite as well as them. And again, that goes back to other things today. I think Chris Harvey said they had sort of floater people who were interested but weren't really up to. So you just help the different levels, it's a big climbing thing. So to conclude, keep in mind that regular people don't always have high-level technology or access to it, the internet, everything. Shay mentioned portable technology, and here I'd like to, not me and Lydia, but me and Rita Anderson made an app a couple of years ago, Inuttitut, and it was through the Aidan Pine. Oh, I didn't spell his name right. The developer, but crucially, we made it through his technology because it could be downloaded onto your phone and taken out to camp. Like you go out to your cabin and you don't have to be connected to the internet. So it's not something that was dependent on the internet. It was, once it was on your phone, the audio was there, it was yours forever. So sometimes you have to think about these things. So Zoom's a good tool for community language learners as part of the repertoire of learning. They can use it either for one-on-one lessons with fluent speakers, or hopefully, I think, following the lead of those Mohawk women to form a language club that involves learners and fluent speakers if you can. And our big emphasis today to the audience, as I say, is all this can be organized on your own, imagine. And of course, we all know that it's speaking a language which keeps it alive. So there's some references, and that's it for us. And there's an email you can, if you want links or ask questions to us later. But we now have different questions.
Thank you.
Nakumik, Lydia and Alana. It's really good to be reminded of how much can be done with how little. We have plenty of time for questions. Please, okay, so we have a question from Melita Paul.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks so much, Nakumik, for that very informative presentation, Lydia and Alana. I work with Inuttitut, and I'm very interested in the work that happened between both of you. And Lydia, I am wondering if you are open to doing this type of learning with other people who are interested in learning Inuttitut outside of the Nunat.
The volume is very low, so I cannot hear very good. I get the volume turned up, and
I'll try to speak louder. Can you hear me now?
no.
Can you hear me, Lydia?
Oh yes, I can hear Alana.
For her. Okay. She's with Inuttitut.
Yeah.
And she wants to know if you're open to doing this kind of method with other people. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I am. I am always open to any language related work that I enjoy doing. Yes, if you give me your email address, maybe when the show is over, then or I can inbox you.
I would love that. Yes, please. I'm very interested in talking with you and seeing if there's somehow we can work together. Because Inuttitut language, as you know, in our ancestry was lost back in the 1920s. So we're very much trying to introduce.
She's saying she's very interested because in the Inuttitut, their language was lost in the 1920s.
Okay. Yes, I'd be willing to teach her some Inuttitut lessons.
I will inbox you my email address here.
Okay. Your name is Melita?
Yes, it is Melita Paul.
Okay.
I'll just send you.
Okay, yeah, you can send it and Lydia will get back then. We have another question, I think.
And Alana, I just wanted to ask you for a clue up my questions. Was you mentioned the app for the Inuttitut?
Yes.
What app is there specifically? I know there's one.
Okay. It's on You can get it through Google Play or the App Store. It's Inuttitut, or I have to type it in the chat.
I believe Nick, you have Melita's email address. I can get that from you maybe, because I can't hear her very good.
Okay, so Melita, if you've sent your email address, we can connect you and Lydia.
Okay. I'll just put it in the chat.
So that it's also, you can, I think the link to it is on Inuttitut government's, one of their web pages, the one of their pages.
Are you
And
talking to me?
Hmm?
Who are you talking to?
Oh, I was talking to Melita, and also I see there's another question from Eileen Beaver about more information about, like, Aidan Pine made a lot of dictionary apps. I think he's a little busy now. He's doing a master's in, no, maybe a PhD in linguistics at University of Edinburgh. And let's see, I'd have to get off this page and search to give the link to that. His website, he's got a lot of dictionaries, and then he made this one for Rita Anderson and myself that I think is very useful. It's very simple, like really nothing fancy, but it really has nice, one of the nice things about it is you can save a subset of the words and then make those the words you want to learn that week. And it's got the audio, and like I say, you can take it to the cabin. Yeah. What's Aiden's? I have to Google things myself. Okay, ask another question while I look something up. Oh, Aiden Pine. Oh, that looks good. Thank you very much. Wonder if I should just, I wonder if I click that, will I get there? I could show people. Are there other questions?
Yes, there are a couple of other questions. So there's one from Alex Fire Thunder.
Oh, yes.
Saying, have you ever seen language communities where various orthographies are used and the younger generation and second language learners tend to use consistent orthography with diacritics, while the elders and native speakers tend to use inconsistent spelling with little or no markings at all? How can such a barrier be broken when learners depend on written materials as well on speaking activities, especially after lessons when they're on their own or self-studying?
Wow, that was a lot. I wish I could read it. But
It's in the Q&A, which you can read if you.
In the Q&A. I haven't even discovered that yet. Oh, okay. Well, certainly we've seen that. In Labrador, there's two writing systems right now. There's the older one and the younger one. Diacritics isn't as big a deal there. But certainly that's an issue that the younger people started learning another one, and the older people never learned the new one. So you've got two generations. It's almost as if you've got a divide between generations when they're using different ones. I don't think I have solutions to this because, as we all know, orthographies are really complicated. I wonder if Louis Jacques still in the audience. He would be someone I would turn to for that. I think, yeah, our inconsistent spelling, the learners well, you can't change the older people, I think, unless there's some that want to. But yes, it's a barrier, exactly the way you've said it. It's a barrier. I don't know. It's a tough one, the language, the writing systems. Inuit are trying to make a writing system they can use across dialects, and that's also tough. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything useful. There probably are other people here who in the audio, like on the speakers, who would have something to say about that.
We also have a question from Mikhail Fidias saying, I feel that most of these practices address mainly L2 speakers. How is technology used for language education and generally contact for L1 learners, that is children?
In Inuttitut, there's not really L1 learners per se. They have language nest, but I would say that practically speaking, there aren't any L1 children learners, which is the issue that this L2 teaching is addressing, because they still have a lot of L1 people who have learned, like people who've learned it, like Lydia's L1, but they're not getting that at the baby stage. Just they have a couple language nests, and I think they're popular, but I don't think it's being carried into the schools. Again, I think I would appeal to other people. Maybe maybe other people who have L1, I guess, with like in the Innu communities, that's where they have L1 learners as children. But Lydia, you don't know any babies that are learning Inuttitut right now, do you?
No, I don't.
No.
But I know that like L1 learners, they tend to like speak only the easy words that they know, and L2 like myself, like a fluent speaker.
Actually, you're the L1 learner. Like it's your first
Oh, I'm
language.
the L1,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
and the
okay.
L2 is the
Yeah.
younger ones, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So I am the L1.
you're the
I'm still
L1.
learning as I go on, and I learned like Inuttitut since I was like born, I guess. And so the technology would help because you know not everybody writes notes, or they're either on like myself, I write notes because I don't have a laptop. And the thing is, I I I am oh, excuse me. I am like you know that's my first language is Inuttitut.
Mm.
Growing up, like that's how I preserve my language. But younger ones, I heard that they only like learn today by like the simple little words in Inuttitut,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to be losing the language.
Mm-hmm.
I like to try to preserve it myself.
Mm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we're about at the end of our time slot here, but there was one more question from Doug Warham.
Yeah,
Oh,
if there's
okay.
time. Hi, thank you. I'm wondering what form your master apprentice things are taking now. Is it like, I mean, you know, Lydia can't be walking down to the North Mart and looking at
No.
stuff because, well, she'd have to be wearing a mask, which makes the language stuff all the more difficult. So it's just right now hanging around the house, talking about things in the background.
No, we had some good weather in Toronto about 2 months ago.
Damn you.
And it was so good. And so I was sitting outside and I was showing her stuff in the backyard and we're talking about it, and I show her also stuff out my window, little kids walking by, and then she she says, oh, the one in the red jacket. And but now that the weather is really good, now it's come back the good weather, I could go for a walk with that. Because I have to use the phone too when we do it, because sometimes I cheat and I use the laptop, but I try to use the phone so I can understand what it's like to use Zoom on a phone. I don't know how many people in the audience have used Zoom on a phone. Lydia's an expert at. Oh, you have? Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Okay.
It wouldn't be very interesting talking about the weather here. Silalo, 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 silalo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. The important thing, it's yeah. You just have to make it hard to speak English.
That's the main thing. Is
yeah.
just
Impossible.
if you can't.
I should have had headphones on myself, but I can't find them, so I can't hear very good.
Oh, okay.
And then Nick is presenting, like I can hear real good. I can hear like when I go to the window.
Yeah.
The conversation is very low, and besides, there's something that is low because I guess the WebEx.
I don't know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Could it be would that make an extra layer for her to her cell phone?
I have a hard time on WebEx without headphones myself.
Mhm. Thank you very much once again for your really fascinating talk, Lydia and Alana. We now have another 5-minute break before the talk by Ryan DeCare on adult acquisition. So everybody, take a break, take a stretch. See you soon.
Thank you.